At the end of such a long marriage, to lose her, was there partnership at the very end?
Yes, she had suffered from cancer for the last few years, and that was a terrible thing. She knew she was going to die. I was more optimistic, but she knew she was going to die, and she used to say, I'm not battling against cancer, I'm living quite happily with it, and death is an adventure. And I learned about death a lot from her, and I'm grateful to her for that now.
And when you think of her now, what do you most remember?
Well, I remember everything about her because we lived in the house where I now live. We've lived there 60 years, and every room I go into I can see her sitting there working and so on. And you could never replace someone you've lost, but you decorate the gap with memories, happy memories, and that's what makes it possible.
So if I ask you if you miss her, she's still there?
Very much so. I think immortality is what you leave with others, your children and grandchildren and friends, and that's what it's about.
Now, Lord Healey, you've described Edna as your better half. What does that mean?
Well, my life was divided into two parts, really. One was the half which I lived with Edna, and my happiness was twice as high while she was alive as after she passed away. We had very shared interests. We both loved poetry, we both loved music, and we loved listening to it together. She was a tremendous help to me in every way, and of course her death was an awful blow from which I haven't yet recovered.
And you were married for 64 years. This is a very recent loss we're talking about. It happened in the summer.
Yes, that's right, last year.
And do you feel stranded?
I do feel the loss very seriously, I'm afraid.
Tony, yours has been 10 years of dealing with this.
Yes.
How would you respond to what we're hearing?
Well, I think it is very difficult just after. Mind you, immediately after, I felt a sense of relief that she was no longer in pain.
Yes.
And we were at the hospital. My 4 children and I were next to my wife's bed, and the Macmillan nurse said to me, "You can say to her now she can go if she wants to." So I whispered in her ear, "We're all here, and if you want to go, you can." And a few seconds later she stopped breathing, and there was a tremendous sense of relief. But of course, as Dennis says, the gap opens up and you can't fill it.
I agree very much with Tony about that. As I say, I'm helped enormously by the attention of my other children and my grandchildren. I've got 4 now. But the loss of Edna has wiped out, really, half of my life.
I read a book by the poet Danny Absey. He lost his book. It's called The Presence. And that word is to say that she's there all the time for him. And although you describe it as a loss, Tony said that he feels she's still there. Do you feel Edna in the garden? Do you feel her presence is there in the house?
Well, I both feel that she's there and am very conscious that she isn't there. So it's a very odd mixture of feeling.
Yes, I understand exactly what Dennis said. My father once said to me, every life is like a pebble dropped into a pool. The ripples go backwards and forwards forever, even if you can't see them. And I think the ripples, the memories of a life, do keep you going. I have children and grandchildren, and of course they remind me of her, and many of them have the characteristics. And so I think immortality is something that carries on automatically.